third video of the series where we are trying to predict the acidic strength or compare the acid strength of two or more acids using a qualitative approach. So the bottom line of all that discussion was that if we can predict the stability of the conjugate base, then we can predict which acid would be more stronger acid as compared to the other one. So the stronger the conjugate base of the acid, or the more stable the conjugate base of that acid is, the stronger that acid is. Okay, so in that series we discussed the concept of electronegativity to predict the stability of the conjugate base. In the second one, we used resonance to predict the stability of the conjugate base and thereby comparing the acidic strength. Now to this we are adding one more thing, and I'm going to pose a problem and then we will explore that. Now suppose I have ethanoic acid or acetic acid, as you can say. So this is ethanoic acid. Let it react with the base B negative, and this B negative will abstract the most loosely bound proton, and we are going to get carboxylate or acetate anion. Okay, so acetate anion plus BH. Okay, so this acetate anion is the conjugate base of acid, which is ethanoic acid. Okay, so this is the one. Now if I compare this, suppose I have a question where I have to compare this with, say, trichloro or trifluoroacetic acid. Okay, this is trichloroacetic acid, a base which abstracts the most loosely bound proton, generating the carboxylate anion. So I'm writing Cl3 for all those chlorines. C double bond O, O negative, plus BH. Okay. Now in such a scenario, if someone asks us like whether the acetate anion is more stable or the trichloroacetate anion is more stable. Okay. So in that case, if we use all the factors which we have discussed so far, one of them is electronegativity of the atom bearing the negative charge. Second factor was resonance. If I use these yardsticks to compare the acidic strength of these two acids, then both stand at the same position, because in the one which is highlighted in green, the negative charge is on oxygen. In the one which is highlighted in blue, the negative charge is again on oxygen. So in both the cases, electronegativity of the atom bearing the negative charge is the same. If I go for resonance, the first one also shows resonance, and because of that resonance, the negative charge is distributed onto the two oxygens. In the second case, which is highlighted in blue, the negative charge is there on oxygen, and it can get delocalized onto the other oxygen through resonance. So both of them bear the atom, both of them have the same atom bearing the negative charge, and both of them are capable of showing the resonance, and there are two resonating structures in both the cases and they are equivalent. Now in such a scenario, the deciding factor becomes the atoms which are connected to the neighboring carbon. So if I look at the one which is highlighted in blue, if I just copy that and put it here, okay, so here there are three chlorines which are connected to carbon, and that carbon is further connected to the carbon bearing the carbon that is connected to the negatively charged oxygen. So these chlorines are electronegative. The electronegativity of chlorine is 3.0. Okay, so because of this, these chlorines, they withdraw this negative charge towards itself, and this is called inductive effect. But if I compare this with the acetate ion that was in green, there is no chlorine to withdraw the electrons towards itself, because hydrogen is very less electronegative as compared to chlorine. There's no comparison in some sense. So chlorine is being very electronegative, kinds of creates a pull of electrons towards itself, because of which the charge gets delocalized on the whole molecule. Okay, and this effect is called inductive effect. So this charge gets more, you know, if had there been no chlorines, just as in case of acetate ion, so this charge is kind of intensified or localized onto these two oxygens. But since there are chlorines which are kind of creating a pull of electrons towards themselves, and because of which this charge gets dispersed, and greater the dispersal of charge, the more is the stability, and that's why the trichloroacetate ion is more stable as compared to the acetate ion. Fine. Now, so here this is the factor. Now there are three things which will help us in doing this. So it is the nature of the electronegative atom, whether it is chlorine or fluorine, nature of the electronegative atom connected to the carbon. Second is their number, how many of them there in a present number of electronegative atoms. Third is their distance from the anionic part, distance from negative charge, negatively charged oxygen. Okay, let's see this with an examples. Suppose I have to compare the acidic strength of, this is monochloroacetic acid, with that of monofluoroacetic acid. So in this case, the only factor which differs is that we have chlorine here and we have fluorine there. This is fluorine, fine. So we know that the electronegativity of fluorine is 4.0. For chlorine it is, I think, close to 3.0. So chlorine is less electronegative. So if it is less electronegative, it will be able to withdraw the electrons towards itself to a lesser extent as compared to fluorine. So the anion which bears fluorine will be much more stable as compared to that with the chlorine. Okay, if you want to do this, you can write down the complete things like chlorine, okay, with a base which abstracts the most loosely bound proton, and then you have, just a moment, Cl, H, and the carboxylate anion. So here this is the scenario, okay, as compared to if you have fluorine, which is more electronegative than chlorine. So in that case, the anion which is generated would have more dispersal of the negative charge, because fluorine has a greater tendency to withdraw the electrons towards itself. This is BH, okay. So this is the first factor, which is the nature of the electronegative atom. Second is how many of them are present. Suppose I have, this is the second thing. So suppose I have 2 fluorines and I have 1 fluorine only. So 2 fluorines will create a more pull of electrons towards themselves, a greater pull. So difluoroacetic acid is more acidic as compared to monofluoro. This is the second thing. The more the number of the electronegative atoms connected to the carbon, that is connected to the carboxylate group, the more is the acidic strength of that acid is, okay. Third is the distance. So suppose I have monofluoroacetic acid, or I would say propanoic acid. I would take, this is this thing, and I have to suppose compare this with the monofluoropropanoic acid where the fluorine is next to the carboxylate group. So in the case of A and D, so in this case, this is separated by a CH2 group from the carboxylate group. Here it is directly connected, so it can create a better pull. So D is more acidic as compared to A, because here the atom which is creating the pull of the negative charge towards itself is nearer to the carboxylate group or the carboxylate anion. Okay, so this is how inductive effect helps us in predicting the or comparing the acidic strength of two or more different acids. Let me know if you have any questions related to that. I would definitely get back to you with the answers to your queries. Thank you.